So, our first pitch is Octopus, a radical new approach to scientific publishing, platform for publication of smaller units of publication that will accommodate open science. And you must be Alexandra Freeman.
I am.
Right, round of applause.
Great, thank you very much. Coming back to academia after 17 years in the media, I've frankly been shocked at the research culture. Most people with an academic career seem only to talk about publications, how many they've got, how well read they are, how widely cited, and they openly talk about what stories to tell with their data. Now, I know this language. It's journalism. It's an interesting word if you think about it. We're turning scientists into journalists. And it's because we're valuing and rewarding the wrong things in science. Because we haven't got good measures of actually how good people are at their work, we're measuring how good they are at storytelling instead. And I think this is driving some of the real problems that we see in the culture. It's making all those questionable research practices, that phrase I love, acceptable. And it's making it non-collaborative and slow and sometimes driving science into science fiction. And I think science is too important to let this happen. So what if we started again? Forget the way that we work now. Forget papers. It's not the 19th century anymore. Forget journals. Sorry, I will come back to publishing. Instead, imagine the scene that we want it to be. Imagine one online site where all of research, past and present, is freely accessible for everyone to read. And because it's digital, we can make it easily searchable, so you can find what you want to find. And because it's digital, we can make it language agnostic, so you write in your native language, everyone reads in their native language. This isn't science fiction. And don't think of it as a big corporate monolithic piece of software. Think of it as distributed, modular, open source. If you have a great idea on how to make this work better, go ahead, add it to it. It uses the genius of the community it serves. And it's mad that we're not doing this already. So this would, at a stroke, make science much more accessible, and it would make it free at the point of use, but it wouldn't get to some of those really nitty problems that we see in the culture. And I think that's because it's more than just physical paper that's out of date. It's the whole concept of the scientific paper as the unit of publication. You can see the scientific process as a kind of chain. You come up with a research problem and then hypotheses and then methods to test those hypotheses. But I think that waiting until you've got to the end of the whole process before you share and publish any of it is fundamentally driving these problems. Imagine instead a smaller unit of publication, any one of those 7 stages. So you have a hypothesis and you publish it straight away. You get the credit for it straight away. If you maybe collected a small amount of data, perhaps as a student, you publish that data linked above directly to the protocol that you followed. Other people can then follow that protocol and add to your data. It makes things much, much faster, much more collaborative. It means that you're publishing in smaller author groups, and therefore it's much more accountable and meritocratic. And it doesn't force a retrospective, linear narrative on your work. So therefore it takes away the pressure for all those questionable research practices. And it allows you to then to judge science actually on its quality. And the 8th part of the publication process is the review. It's equally valued as any of the other 7 units of publication. And that means that all 8 levels, this collaborative structure, are all equally valued. And so everything in this system goes public the instant that you decide to press the publish button. And what it means then is that you can then score things on preset and meaningful criteria that we have decided on. So we can choose what we want to credit in science. So here you can see you log on, you publish your review, you rate it, and then that goes instantly live, and that review itself can be rated. So at last, every publication has meaningful, transparent metrics about its real quality. So for individuals, this is fast, this is meritocratic, it's open. For funders, you can see well-rated publications, and you can offer funding for the next part of the chain. imagine all the savings in those grant applications. For institutions looking to hire and promote individuals, you can go straight to the individual's page. And the individual's page shows their affiliations, their conflicts of interest, their publications, and their metrics. So you can see exactly what type of publications they publish, who rates them, how well they're rated. So, panicking on to the last bit, publishers, journals. So there is a role for journals. They get the role of making expert commentaries and aggregation of all this research. And they can then synthesize it and disseminate it to their particular core audiences. And that, I think, is a service worth paying for. So with my winnings, if I win this, I will spend time with a designer who will help me work through the user interface design, which would make you think through every part of the process and then have a template to hand to the right software engineer. Because that's what I think is most incredible, that this is not difficult and it's not slow to build. There are people in this room working on properly difficult and expensive problems. This is not one of them. We can do this now. And given the impact I think it could have, why not give this a go?
Super, thank you. You have to imagine virtual piles of money. I should have said at the beginning, we do have £3,000 where you can give up to 3 prizes of £1,000 each. So we haven't exactly got £1,000 each, but we imagine virtual money here. Okay, my fellow dragons, questions. Quick questions, quick answers. Paul, you look like you've got one, no? You just look like you were.
Thank you.
Matt?
Africa. Let's say I'm a publisher, a scientist in Africa, and I don't have great access to the internet. How does this serve me?
Admittedly, if you don't have great access to the internet, then you're in a slightly more difficult position. But I would say in Africa, most people do. Most people have gone straight to smartphones. They have more access to the internet than they do to expensive journals.
Okay, Rebecca?
So my other half hates me because I pick my places to go to dinner off TripAdvisor. And he says the quality of the people who review on TripAdvisor are not like him.
Yes.
How do you cope with that problem?
Because there are no anonymous logins into this, so everything that you write and everything that you rate is attached to your professional identity, which I think means that people will be very aware of what they're doing. And you can look up and see who's rated that, and if you think, oh, well, I don't believe what they'd say, they would say that, wouldn't they? You can ignore that rating.
Stephen? No.
How are you going to persuade researchers to start using this system if you build it?
Well, I think from the very first, we would pre-populate this with all the open access literature that's already available, so that from day one it's somewhere that you go to find stuff. Wow, exactly. Imagine that. It's all now searchable and it's all there in one place. Or maybe you're saying, wow, because you think that's impossible to do. But there are already aggregations of large amounts of open source, open access material, and we can use AI to start putting it into subject categories. So we can already make it much more accessible. And I think if you build a system that is fantastically useful for institutions, for funders, for individuals, and that even has a role for publishers, and you make it useful from day one, and everybody can see the benefits of it, and it's more widely accessible, I think you'll find that there are people with small amounts of data with brilliant ideas already and waiting for somewhere to put it. And as Adam said earlier, you've got all the Nobel Prize winners who said, I would never publish in a journal again if I didn't have to. Well, now they don't have to.
Magdalene?
So, wonderful idea. The trouble is a lot of this already exists. So scientific data, F1000 has data nodes, relatively low uptake of this. So my question really is similar.
So I don't think that's a problem. I think actually part of the job of this will be bringing all that together. What I've seen is that everything is happening in very small bits, and it's often quite geeky. So a non-geek like me coming to open access material, it's actually difficult to know how to use it. It's not necessarily user-friendly, and it's all very distributed. If you bring it all together into one simple system that's designed for the users, it's very user-friendly, then I think that will drive people to there. Because if you've got one place where you just have everything that you need, everything that you want to read, and you're already starting to read other people's reviews on that, that already makes it more useful than anything you've got. So it's like the first day that somebody showed you Google. You just go, oh yeah, I don't need to go anywhere else anymore.
Any other more questions before you are ready to make your
Why
decision?
Octopus as a name?
Because I wanted something friendly and non-pretentious that worked in multiple languages. There are also 8 bits of 8 bits of the publication, and it looks like one when you've got the tentacles coming down.
Right. And let's just extend the metaphor a bit. In the ocean of science that comes our way, how do you get rid of all the fishy bits?
Oh, well, that's easy because of the rating. So the ratings just bring it straight down. So if you just look at the top rated, can I say that shit sinks?
Okay.
Sinks.
Last question to Magdalene.
So the process you described fits very well into one particular type of research approach.
Yes.
What about across the disciplines?
So that's a very interesting question, and that's where I really do want to spend some time talking to people from very different disciplines to just make sure that it serves as many as possible, because obviously I can't know everybody's discipline intimately.
Okay, well done.